this is going to be, as usual, for the ones of you that have joined us a few times, our Infectious Connections is going to take another meaning tonight because we have an outstanding, a person I personally highly admire, a leader in the lead change group and in many other facets, a person that gives and that is all behind random acts of leadership, Susan Mazza. Susan, before I make a fool of myself further, we have been trying to go in a hangout, and we are right now, and with Mia Voss, that is helping us, sending us good vibe from Denver. I really want to extend our appreciation for the HRockstars community for having you join us tonight. And before we go further, I just want to give an opportunity to everybody to present each and every one of you, starting with you, Susan. Just say a few words of intro, and then we're going to do a tour de table, as we say in French, and then launch the Infectious Connections with you. So over to you,
Great,
Susan.
Johan. It's really great to be here, and thanks for the invitation. So I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you tonight. It's nice to get some face-to-face interaction.
Totally. Mia, I'm going to turn to you first because you've been so helpful, and I think the crown magic is happening right now.
Hi, honey. How are you? Great to see everybody. I'm glad I could jump in. I'm Mia Voss, coming to you live out of Denver. I'm with the Mia Connect, and I also have a weekly show called the Social Media Power Chat, which Johan has been on and graced us with his fabulous presence. So it's nice to see you all.
Thank you so much, Mia. And
Thank you, darling.
and I think, that was an Infectious Connection 2 weeks ago, and I'm still feeling the energy. So thanks for being here. Angela, Dave is going to agree with me. We're gents, so we need to make sure that everybody introduced, and then you can talk. Over to you, sweetheart.
Happy to be here. I'm Ann. Nice to see you. Hi, Joy. It's really good to hear you. And hi, Riarte. This is going to be a great talk. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Angela. And before we went into the hangout, we didn't have any echoes, but for one reason, you appear to be reverberating right now, which is fine, but in a hangout, it can be challenging.
Okay, I'll turn my volume down.
Just saying. Hashtag just saying.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, I know. Dave, over to you, my friend.
All right. I think Angela is working on the law of vibration there. I think that's what that is.
Exactly.
My name is David Moore. I'm the creator of a transformation program called Human Potential Technology. We take people from zero to hero, and we let small companies leave the room so they can invade small countries. And I'm glad to be here tonight to finally put a voice and movement to that wonderful leader, Susan Mazza, who I have followed for quite a while now. And she is certainly somebody that you should be following on Twitter. And if you're not following on Twitter and Facebook and anything like that, then you're wasting your time on the internet.
Well, perhaps we should just let you and Susan discuss for 45. That's really moving, Dave. Considering that you're quite good at landing in London and being in a hangout within the next 30 minutes, please.
That's me. Sometimes I get here before the plane.
Well, and if that ever happens, we're going to hear about it, and the good chance is it's never going to happen. So, Susan, I want to give you an opportunity to really, open a door for you to simply tell us who you are for the ones that are following you, but like Dave, get to see you in real time and enjoy your presence. So, a few words from you, and then we'll just take it from there.
Great. My company name is Claris Consulting Group, but I don't really, people don't know me very much by that, but I am an organizational change consultant, and I work a lot with small businesses, large businesses, as well as school systems in helping people develop teams and do remarkable things together. So that's really what I'm passionate about. And and my random acts of leadership was the, my expression where I chose to enter the internet, right? And it came from a message, and some of you might have read the story is on my website on randomactsofleadership.com. But essentially, my dad passed away, and he left a message to me, and it was that it was a poem called "To Remember Me." And at the end of the poem, it says, "If you wish to remember me, do so by committing an act of kindness. If you do this, I shall live forever." And so and as I started, I didn't have a website. I've been doing organizational consulting, and as I started to think about it, I thought, well, what if committing an act of leadership could be as simple as committing an act of kindness, right?
No
and
kidding.
So in going around as I traveled, committing acts of kindness to keep my dad's memory alive, I began to start this inquiry: what if we could make leadership that simple? And that's really where Random Acts of Leadership came from. And it's the heart of my message is that you don't have to be the leader to be a leader. And that's really why I started writing about Random Acts of Leadership, and that's what I promote in all the work that I do. It doesn't matter what level you are, it doesn't matter what position you have, anyone can lead in any moment.
Wow, I'm speechless, Susan. I mean, just to hear about your story about your dad and the connection and how you translated that into action, and just it almost feels like you're living your life's purpose.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it, and and the message from my dad came at a time where I was thinking, I've done leadership development, but who am I really? What do I have to say, and do I have anything to say that's even unique in the world, given that there's a million books on leadership, and clearly lots of blogs on leadership, so there's a lot written on the subject, and he gave me the courage to be bold enough to take a stand to say, I do have something to say that's worth saying.
Wow, what a goosebump moment, Susan. Yeah. That's just a wonderful story.
It's really cool. Thank you. What's really cool about this as I share this story with you now, what is so cool about it is my dad was one of those. My dad grew up very poor, and he had a diploma from an automotive high school. He was never expected to amount to anything, and he went on to be a director of 4 data centers for Nabisco by the time he retired. So he found a way to rise through the ranks of corporate life at a time when most people went to work for a company and stayed in the same job. So I moved around a lot as a kid because my dad, whenever he would hit that artificial ceiling that said you don't have a degree or you don't have this or you don't have that, he would go out and find a job or somebody who was hiring him based on purely that he could do something no one else could.
Wow.
And so he really carved his own way. So for me, it's pretty exciting to be kind of standing on his shoulders, because he was one of those leaders I admired, and a lot of the stories that I share and a lot of things I learned early on about leadership and about everyday leadership come from him. So for me, it's also a way that I can keep his memory alive and kind of continue the learning, because it started with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just smiling at this point. I mean, I'm just truly grateful for you sharing that story. I mean, that's what's beautiful about social media, and that you get to hear. We may read your words, but when we hear it, there's an emotional connection that's created, and then it becomes more meaningful. I think Angela mentioned goosebump moments. I think that's a nice way to put it. I felt a goosebump when I started, and I don't know about you, Dave, or Mia, but I mean, wow.
I did for sure. Yeah, that's. Wow.
It's a great way to. It's a great twist on the words too, because everybody uses that random acts type of thing. But I love your spin on this and taking that from your dad. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
I've spent the last few years. Once I kind of cast the idea of random acts of leadership. I started my blog really as a way to discover, well, what does that really mean?
Yeah. So you sort of go into the motion, and the more you write, the more you're digging deeper into that meaning, and you're living, it's true. Leadership is such an expression that it's used in a way that is become interchangeably, that everybody uses it, and then it sort of, what does it mean? What does it really mean? And so I think the personal struggles or the personal stories that we each have ground our practice of leading, and yours certainly is quite a story, and I'm sure the ones that are looking at us, following us right now, have many goosebump moments as well. Angela and Dave, I want to offer you an opportunity to react maybe to what is going on right now. Before, I had a few questions that are planned, so we can start with the, I'm not a formal type of guy for the one that know me. You need the structure, but I want to give you an opportunity just to, maybe react, and then we could launch the questions. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Angela, if there's anybody on the feed that are reacting to the goosebumps there, but Susan has set the tone. So, since you're all quiet,
I can talk.
Well, and I just see some great comments. Angela's awesome. You're watching and commenting.
Okay, I was on mute, sorry. Joy says here, you don't have to be the leader to be a leader. And she quoted that from Susan. And what Susan just said about, her dad and how he came from those humble beginnings and, made something for himself. It sounds like to me that he stepped into that role as a leader in his own life and harnessed the energy of that and, took that and ran with it and made something really special that not only, gave his life meaning and purpose and helped support his family, but then taught his daughter these, wonderful, and again, I'm getting goosebumps, these wonderful, life lessons that then are going to transfer into impacting so many more people that you work with on a daily basis, which is an amazing story.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Totally. So, I was really moved when I read your post, yesterday, Susan, which is, leading can be silent. I think there's two words that came to me when I read that. I'm sort of, taking a step back here, trying to sort of reflect in the moment, which is giving back. I will say this, that, Ahim has been sick in the last week, and in the Lead with Giants community, we all sort of, we're behind him to say, get better. And so I like the way that you're describing your random acts of leadership, and I want to open the door with you to discuss what giving, the part that's giving in leadership. When you're leading, you don't need to take the front stage all the time and be there, with your pom-poms. Although, I like to wear the crown like Mia sometimes, but this is not about that. It's about making a fool of me. But it's about giving back and taking a step back in order to allow us to take the front stage, maybe, or and support people in the way that they're expressing their leadership.
How I've come to talk about how to define leadership is, I've started to look at, if you're going to make leadership simple, you've got to make it very practical and tangible and accessible.
Yes.
And action is really ultimately what distinguishes leadership, in my point of view, is in the actions you choose to take. And so I define leadership as is speaking up, stepping up, or standing up for something, to make a difference in something that matters to you. And and so I've kind of, as I've inquired in what random acts of leadership is over the last few years, I've come to the conclusion that those are really speaking up, stepping up, standing up. Those are really the three fundamental acts of leadership. Mm-hmm. So in the context of silence, I think that's where we really are stepping up, because it's not about what we say. It is about our gestures, our energy. It's how we show up for other people that has them know that we believe in them, that has them know we're there to support them, and that gives them the kind of support they need to step up to the next level for themselves. And so, all the examples I gave in that post, you can, I've had, when I was being trained to lead workshops or to give speeches, I've had, people who were, whether it was a peer or whether it was someone that I was working for, just having them stand in the back of the room, making eye contact with me, just sending that energy my way. That makes a huge difference for people, right?
That's true. That's true.
Not speaking sometimes and letting someone else, even if they're fumbling around, but giving them the grace and the space to step up and rise to the occasion, to take the floor. I think sometimes, even in a meeting situation, we can be so anxious to get the next word in or say the next thing. But I think as leaders, the more we can learn to allow for that pause, and sometimes it's an uncomfortable pause, that's when we give people room to get out of their heads and into the room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm silent.
Can I jump in on that?
Of course.
I love, well, first of all, I love the phrase giving people space, which is fantastic. And for a lot of us that are solopreneurs, we don't necessarily have, a company that we run to, let's say, have that, we kind of forget that leadership role. But I'm seeing a little bit with people on Google Plus and that are doing exactly what you're saying, is allowing people to, kind of hold space to, like we just did with setting up the event, or, with anything where it's that people are being really gentle leaders in a lot of senses of just allowing people to, feel a comfortable place to say, I don't know, but then you're going to help them with it. Does that make sense? That's great. Mm-hmm. Yes. And can I just commend you on your website, by the way, while you're talking? I was snooping through. I love how you have the tweet that on your website with your blog post, because I just tweeted, people do not just listen to your words. So nice job, sister.
Well, thank you. I can thank my social media support people over at Weaving Influence. So give them a plug. Because Becky Robinson and her team do an amazing job. So
nice. Well, they make you look great with these words. But thank you, though. I really appreciate that. I think for a lot of people that, like I said, aren't in a company per se, that leadership role is in every aspect, online, in your daily life. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it is, and I too am a solopreneur, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but leadership has so many different dimensions, and it shows up in our communities too, right? It shows up in our schools, and I just featured a post that was written by Allie Pollin's daughter. She's 10 years old, and she defined what leadership is. Yeah. And for me, it warms my heart and gives me hope for the future that. Sure. That already at that young age, she has such a keen sense of what leading really is all about.
That's so true. And hi, Ali. We love you, even though you're not there. No, I think many of us know Ali, and but the choice of words is key here. I think. I mean, Mia uses gentle. I've written them down. Right? Gentle. Susan, you were saying allowing others. I mean, that's quite something, right? It's when you open that door for other people. That's quite, you're into other. I use the expression, we all have power, and so it's being able to unleash that power that and energy that everybody has. So, and rise to occasion. I mean, there's so many gold nuggets. I can't keep track. So that's infectious.
I have something that kind of piggybacks on that, and
thank you, Angela.
When I was answering Joy's thing about saying that you don't have to be the leader to be a leader, and it reminds me, and I've mentioned this over and over, of what Jen Olney of Be a Leader says, and she goes by the mantra of everybody's a leader in their own lives, and so my answer to that when Joy said that was, yes, that's so true. We have an impact on every single person that we come in contact with, and it's not necessarily in the office. And we could take that opportunity to make the conscious choice to either make that a positive interaction or a negative interaction, and like what we leave with that person, and could be very impactful. Like, we don't realize how much even a sentence or a smile or paying attention when you're speaking in front of an audience can impact you, right?
Absolutely.
And so, Dave, you've been
Yo.
quiet. You have been quiet.
I can't resist this opportunity to listen to Susan Mazza.
I know.
You have to take all of this in. No, I think she's absolutely right. I mean, I did a post quite a while ago, which was called "Who Are You When Nobody Is Looking?" That is basically the fact that you are a leader at all times, and unfortunately, some of the bad leaders, maybe we should call them bosses, are just a leader in front of their people.
Yeah.
And the phrase "in front of their people" is very apt. It's not alongside their people, but it's only in the presence of their people that they're a leader. But you are a leader if you've ever got anybody to do anything for you, or because you wanted them to do it, or because you thought they needed to do it. You're a leader because you've led them. And this is something that we have to understand, that we are always on show as a leader. And the authenticity of the leader, the ethics, the ethical behavior of the leader is very evident when you are a leader all the time. Your very presence, what you say, what you do, how you carry yourself. You should be able to walk into a room full of people and everybody know that you're in charge, or that you're the person that's responsible for everybody else. And when you can carry yourself that way, actions speak louder than words. And just the fact that you're being there has a very calming effect on things that can happen. I mean, humour is another thing, I think, that is a good leveler. You know, when I've had issues in my office, and we were speaking about my office last week, of it being a cross between controlled madness, you know, and it's just an insane environment where things get done and unimaginable things get suggested, but wouldn't get suggested in a very stiff corporate environment. But when something happens, you know, I normally say, look, you two panic, everybody else stay calm. Because unless you can take control of any situation, sometimes you're put in a leadership position which you just stroll into, because nobody else is willing to take those further steps. And once you've done it, you know, you've got to keep walking, and you've got to keep doing it all the time. So it's interesting, very interesting to hear what Susan's saying about her definition of leadership, because it is a 24/7 thing that you do.
Yeah, you know, Dave, one of the reasons why I've gotten particularly interested in leadership at the level of action, and specifically at the level of very simple actions, is, you know, when we look in the world, you know, we can see leaders like, you know, Gandhi, right, or Martin Luther King. We have a whole story to tell about the leaders they were and all of the things that we did. But we're looking at that in hindsight. But leaders are forged really one action and one choice at a time. And, you know, one of the ways I believe that not only that if we're going to be better leaders and we're going to cultivate leadership in others, we've got to be able to recognize leadership in the moment it's happening, not 100 years later when we're looking at the amazing speech that had the difference, right? Yeah. You know, sometimes someone does something amazing and it doesn't have the desired difference, but that doesn't mean it wasn't an act or a show of leadership. And so I think if we really want to develop leaders, we've got to start to be able to, you know, I work with organizations, and a lot of them have matrices now around leadership capability, right? So they're like rubrics, and they're very complex with very complex examples. And I start to think, you know, what if all you had to do to assess someone's leadership is to come up with examples of where they speak up, step up, stand up, right? You know, in their everyday work, right? To me, then people know what to put on the piece of paper. But all too often, they sit there trying to write those performance reviews and assessing people's leadership. And And it's so nebulous that they can't get their hands around it. And I don't believe it has to be that way. And I also think that it is so nebulous becomes an impediment to cultivating it.
Yeah. No, I want to jump. I want to say something. I'm really like, oh my God, Susan, because I'm such a person that follows leadership trends. That's what I'm paid for on a day-to-day basis. And I mean, the aha moment I had when I listened to you was, we do as leaders and managers get fixated in processes, and then it's no longer about the dialogue. You need to have a basic discussion, and it's a day-to-day thing, right? Like performance reviews. I mean, we have our forms to fill, but manage people on a day-to-day basis. Be present, as you say. I mean, Angela and I have talked about being present and being authentic, as you said. But let's not, not to oversimplify or be simplistic, but I like the purity of your message, which is, like, just focus on those 3 levels of connections that you're talking about. And once you do that, you sort of put all competency models and all the indicators and all, like, it becomes like, okay, I mean, this is all mechanistic. Let's be humans. Almost.
Right.
Yep.
I was going to jump in with a thought. I think there's the idea of, you hear the phrase like, too many chiefs and not enough Indians, which is a horrible phrase, but you know where I'm going with this. And I think a lot of people think there can only be one, leader, or that it's just kind of this, this top of the food chain hierarchy. But I think it really is a level playing field of that everyone can have a leadership role, bringing their skill set or their particular skill set to the table. And they don't have to be strong in every single thing, because they, like our group, we're surrounded by leaders that all have amazing skill sets and bringing it to the table. I mean, talk about a fabulous, collaborative community idea.
Right, and and one of the things, I've had extensive conversations with many people as I've continued to try and kind of formulate what is a random act of leadership, right? And so if you go to the very basics of the question of the difference between an act of kindness and an act of leadership, and I think it applies to what you were just pointing to, Mia, is that an act of kindness is something I do and it makes a difference for another person, but it's not necessarily in service of a larger purpose, right? And one of the things that I think distinguishes an act of leadership from any other kind of action, because you can be really talented in something and not use it to benefit other people. You can be super knowledgeable and you can hoard your knowledge, or you can lord it over people, and you may have the position of leader, right? But it doesn't mean that you're leading, right? You could be manipulating and coercing, and you could be using your authority to get people to do things rather than truly leading them, right? So, what I think is fundamental is the purpose for which we use those gifts and those skills and those talents. That's really at the heart of what ultimately makes something leadership or not leadership.
I like those gems. I mean, it's just music to my ears. It's so beautiful. It's like blissful, really. But it's true. I mean, at some point we need to jump, and we don't. I mean, we live in such a world right now that, as we said before the hangout, Susan, you said it feels like we're next door neighbors. It's so small. Like you're in Florida right now, and we have Mia that's in Denver, Angela's in Kingston, I'm in Ottawa, and then we have Dave conspiring to be happy in London, on the entire that side of the globe, and then Joy's here saying hello to us. But that the simplicity and the connection, it's all about that connection ultimately, and being in the service of a greater cause. We don't need to, in order to excel, I guess from my perspective, I would say we don't need to. You need to be in a community. It's fun to be in a community, but it's about that giving back, that sense that you are actually giving back, and that I think Angela and myself have had many discussions over the past 2 weeks in the sense that when you send out positive energy in the world, there's a good chance that energy is going to come back to you in tons, and that people are going to give, because that's what it's kind of the law of attraction at the same time.
Yeah.
Angela, I've opened the door for you, Angela. I don't know if you want to jump.
Firstly, Joy has a question.
Oh, Joy has a question. Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
She says, Susan, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing leaders today?
Oh, nice question, Joy. Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
That's a big question.
Is it a laundry list?
The biggest.
Or can it be, is there one thing that's kind of the...
Yeah. Is it integrity? Is it a lack of ethics? Is it show of courage? Or is it quite simple, as you say?
Or is it that question?
I'm just kind of in my mind. I'm kind of going through different clients and people that I've talked to in the recent past, and like what are people challenged by? Yeah. I hear a complaint in the world. Like we're all the leaders. We need more leaders. We need more effective leaders, right? And then you have the people in leadership positions who are saying, I wish more people would step up and take the lead, right? So there seems to be this, like, we want more leadership, right? We want more leaders. We're not even sure what we mean by that, but, there's that complaint. I don't know, is it just me, or do you guys hear that complaint in the world? We need better leaders. We need more leaders. You hear that too?
You hear it quite a bit in the UK. Did you hear that, or was that just in my head, that beat?
It was in your head, and
No, it's just you.
we accept you just the way you are, Dave.
Thank you. I'm never alone with a schizophrenic. We hear it quite a bit in the UK, but I think it goes back to what you were saying about random acts of leadership. It's not so much that we need more leaders, but we need more leadership, and that leadership can sometimes come from people who are not, I hate doing this, leaders. I hate that thing when you call your
I heard that.
But yeah.
And so I think hold on a second.
Johan.
Okay. Of course, it's a telemarketer. Sorry about that.
It's at your end, Susan.
It's at your end. Okay. I thought it was Johan. He did it the last time.
Yeah, sorry. So I thought I had that turned off, but I obviously didn't. Dave, your distinction between, we don't need more leaders, we need more leadership. And so this comes back to Joy's question of what's the biggest challenges of leaders. And I think while they may say we need more people to lead, or on the flip side, as Dave pointed out, right, we need more leaders, what we're really looking for is leadership. I think the core of that dilemma is the fact that we don't recognize leadership when it's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And that until we start doing that, we're not going to be able to cultivate it in others at the level that would be satisfying, because we don't know what it looks like. We have some nebulous construct, and it's based on things we think people should have done, because I work with some very, very smart executives, and they're always 10 steps ahead of everybody else. And so when they think of leadership, a lot of it, they're looking for people who think like them, right? Or who will anticipate and they see that as leadership, right? But they've got to be able to recognize it in its different forms so they can actually cultivate what they're looking for.
And I guess it's about owning your space. I mean, the way you're presenting your experience, and like I keep quoting him because I'm reading his book. Hi, I can. You're in next week. We're gonna be with you, but I mean. I wrote my post on Monday was about stop acting like a doormat and live your bliss, and so I'm compelled to say that because and that's what the hymn is talking about, is stop acting like a leader, and I have a title, I need to behave like a leader. Just be yourself. If you have to wear your Mickey Mouse earphones, do it, and say hello to David at the same time. But my point is, I think that's what you're saying, Susan, is sometimes we block our own energy. Like we are who we are, and why are we imposing? We need to. What does a leader look like, for God's sake? Just be yourself. Start by that, and then that's going to be a pathway to your own success, because you're not blocking your own energy. I mean, that's just my feeling, because based on my own the research and the readings I'm doing, I find that people are so blocking themselves, and why? I mean, but it's not a judgment. It's just a fact.
Yeah, well, it's like my mentor says, you have to live in your own personal greatness.
Yeah.
And then, that brings out and helps you recognize the greatness in others rather than focusing on, things you might need to fix or, what's going to fit whatever schema you have in your mind of what a leader is. And Joy says here, people frequently say that they need more and better leaders. And, to piggyback on what you said, Susan, about people, or sorry, Johan, I guess, about people not being able to recognize what a leader is because we're so used to looking at people in this cookie cutter, what we think a leader should be, like this, autocratic or, authoritative person, when what we really need to do is, just let people be themselves, be ourselves, and feel comfortable enough in our own skin to know that we can have, a positive impact on people and the world, and we can reach our purpose without having, with people in mind. So there I go, Dave, using that.
Susan, can I ask you a question?
No,
Sure.
You can't.
Thank you.
Of course you can. So polite.
There is a question that a lot, like everybody gets asked, or that you read it quite a bit in leadership magazines, and that is, are leaders born or are they made?
Could you repeat that? I don't think we've heard that.
Right, are leaders born or are they made?
Yeah.
It's a question that has been around for years, but I just wonder what your take on it was.
Well, my take is that I think everyone has the capacity. Everyone is born with some capability that gives them the opportunity to lead. That doesn't mean they're going to be president of a major company, or or hold a position in government, or take a position of leadership. But I do believe that if you come from the point of view that anyone can lead, then the question of are leaders born or made? I mean, I would say that they're, in that sense, we're all born with the potential to be a leader. I think what makes us a leader is how we choose to interact with our circumstances and how we choose to interact with our future.
Wow.
You have some good phrases, woman. I love it.
Yeah.
You're so quotable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
This is good because I'm just making this stuff up.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That's
That's
even
good.
better.
Crazy.
Johan's recording it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Wow.
the same with me. I meet a lot of people who don't realise that they're leaders. They're actually leading the people that they're in the team with, and they're doing a far better job than the person who is leading the team. It's that impetus that they give everybody else, and they're being asked more questions, and they're giving more answers and more advice, and they're actually taking all this on board. And I think there was something that I posted a little while ago that said we're in a society where we look for leaders, when in fact we should be looking for the leaders within ourselves.
That is so true.
That is great.
I think
I like it.
when you do realise that within you have these abilities, you've got to find that key that brings that ability out, and that key will then open all the doors that you need to be able to make that leadership, that step to leadership happen. I believe that everybody's, like you, I believe everybody is born with this leadership, whether they tap into it or not.
Yeah, but I think our experiences do shape us. But to say that somebody else shapes us, I think is the mistake. Because I do believe it's that, yes, we all have people affect us, right? But we get to choose, ultimately, we get to choose who we're going to be in response to that, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. We choose. We get to choose. I so very much believe in that. But I mean, Dave, that explains why your key is always happening, always appearing. Or we've seen your key. Now in your blog post, we understand what the key means. So that's a gold nugget. We're collecting so many gold nuggets. I don't know where to put my head right now. It's crazy. So we're gonna be listening to this one over and over again. And I really hate to do this when we're having so much fun to say, we need to be conscious of the time. It's been almost, I don't know. Angela, are you keeping up?
Yes, I've been actually putting Susan's quotes on the event page all along.
Yes, I was going to commend you. You are doing great on that, Angela.
She's a kind heart. She's such a sweetheart. She is. I love you. There, right?
Oh my gosh. Love you too, sweetie.
Okay.
Good evening. This is breaking news at HRockstars.
So I just realized I'm at my office, and my daughter was dropped off here at my office and is knocking on the door, and I left the door open, but she doesn't know. So give me 2 seconds. I just need to let her in so she's not wondering where the heck I am.
Sounds good.
She's on the phone.
I just run myself. Marilyn saying to me, "This is such a laugh." She's there.
Oh.
Yeah, you have to have laughter in there.
True.
That's part of being a great leader, is being able to laugh.
So that's what we've been doing. And, I'm just conscious of the time. And I will say to Susan, I so appreciate the door you just opened, because my son is finishing his karate lesson in 30 minutes, and I need to be on the road to pick him up, which is, quote unquote, nothing but excellence. When you're in your bliss, you need to take care of the people that are surrounding you. So I will need to leave at some point, but I want to open doors here for everybody to jump and to reflect on the mini nuggets and the heartfelt leadership that really, Susan, you have. You're such a wonderful person. It's just amazing. I'm at peace just listening to you, just speaking for myself.
I was, thinking as, David, the question you asked me about our leaders born, not made. Yeah. I've had that conversation with a lot of people, but I've never answered it. Perhaps I'm not sure I've ever answered it as succinctly as I did this time.
Wow.
And I'll suggest that that's a function of the listening. We talked about silence before, and how we listen to people really matters. And to come on a Google Hangout, it's kind of like being on a talk show, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To come to a forum like this where you feel welcomed, that people are listening for you to be great, you can't help but show up that way. Yeah. And I think that's like the power of this kind of forum, because everyone gets to show the best part of themselves. And I'll suggest that how you guys have interacted with me and listened to me has had me be at ease and able to just think out loud. And so I really appreciate the freedom for that. But I don't want to step over how powerful and important that is as an act of leadership.
And we even had Bob join us, Bob Voss.
I know, he's seen him the whole time. I was hoping he's just been up in my business.
Bob the cat.
Bob. It's Tripod Bob. He says hi.
We always have a cat or a dog, so
we have something. That's right.
So that was just a hello from Bob to Susan just now. So.
Absolutely. He meows in agreement.
So everybody, are we doing a last call, or how do you want to play this one out? It's already, I think, more than 30 minutes into the discussion. And, thanks, Joy, for being there, and thanks, Angela, for facilitating and jumping all the time, and Dave for all your nuggets.
Yeah, Joy says thank you, Susan. She really got a lot out of it. You could tell by the interaction she was having.
Yeah, and
that was great.
And I just wanted to say to Joy, you're such a joy for the Lead with Giants community, and the way you facilitate all the discussions in our Google Plus. So, great job, Joy. You're there.
Yes.
We know.
Great job, Joy.
Yay! Thank you.
So I'm going to suggest we'll leave Susan final words, and then I'm going to say goodbye. But we're going to start with Dave, then go to Mia, and then Angela, and then Susan. And then off to the races, as we say. A few departing words from you, Dave.
Yeah, I think the last thing that Susan was talking about, the listening. I mean, Angela and I sort of like put this up on Twitter quite regularly, but the listening side of things is very, very important for leaders and leadership itself. And I always put, or Angela beats me to it sometimes, that the letters in the word listen also spell the word silent. And for a very, very good reason. And the other thing that I've always thought about the listening skills is that most people listen to hear, but leaders listen to understand. And that is a very, very important attribute of a leader. And I have listened very carefully, to everything said tonight. And I've enjoyed this immensely. And it's been a pleasure and an honour to share the space with you on this. And the other thing is, I'm quite disappointed that I haven't heard much from Mia tonight.
You just you just made the most perfect segue ever, which is I was going to say, it's good when I'm really quiet.
That's so true.
It in. I really am. This has been awesome. I feel like I've been eavesdropping a little bit on a really great conversation. So, but I'm my thought. I was just thinking when we're talking about leadership, a great idea is that leaders beget great leaders. And so just simply by being an authentic person and really kind of coming into your own voice of leadership, it's an encouragement for other people to say, hey, I could do that too. There's enough room and abundance out there for a lot of people to bring their A game and and show leadership. So that's my parting words, darlings.
You are fabulous. Angela.
Awesome. You got quoted there, Mia, and so did you, Dave. I'm going to take my time to read something that Jack Davis wrote on the wall, and he said, people are born with leadership tendencies, an urge to lead, but they are not leaders until they are trained how to harness that urge and use it for good. So both are true. And that's what I'm taking away from it. It's just like that reaffirmation that at the core of everything, leaders are people, and they have to recognize that the people around them, the people that they're leading, are people, and so they need to tap into that, tap into their own authenticity, and treat them the way they would want to be treated. And of course, the great leader is going to be the one that brings out the best in other people around them.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Absolutely.
I mean, full of quotes there. Gold nuggets.
Learn from the best. I've been quoting all you guys all the way through.
You're such a giver. Susan, what a night. What a connection. I mean, you're such a wonderful person. I think we're all glowing with our presence, but I mean, you're making us look good tonight.
Wow. Thank you guys. This has been just a really fun experience, and I look forward to doing it again. And I have enjoyed immensely. I've read all of your tweets. I've read some of your writing, and it is a gift to get to just have this conversation tonight. So thanks for the invitation and for your listening and for the opportunity to talk a little bit about random acts of leadership.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. I mean,
thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Namaste. Goodbye, everyone.
Namaste.
It felt like that kind of space, doesn't it? Feels kind of sacred.
Yes.
So we have had an infectious connections tonight. The choice of words, I think we could probably do a few posts just on the quotes that Susan. I mean, I will just say, I mean, my heart feels really warm right now because I mean you've said something that really was amazing. And when you said your delivery was so clear, that the way that you've answered, I can't remember which question it was, but that you basically summarized it in the moment. And I think you're right. that the energy flow that is being exchanged between us tonight will naturally lend itself to great moments. And we've talked about greatness. I think we've had a great connection and truly blessed. Typically am at the high level with the delivery, but I'm just slowing down to descend on London to be with Dave. Just to say thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, Susan. On behalf of HR Rockstars, this has been, once again, more than ever, an infectious connection. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.